Hey guys, it's Bree here with Blossom and Branch Farm. Today we're going to be talking about soil blocking your Lisianthus. So we have another video that goes over growing all the way through harvesting of your Lisianthus, but today this video is talking specifically about how to soil block your Lisianthus and all the details of that. Let's go. So I mentioned that I like to use soil blocks in particular to grow Lisianthus because of the moisture content of soil blocks. They tend to be a more evenly moist, and just in general the soil medium for soil blocks is more moist than for trays, which is where I think they have an edge when it comes to starting them, and of course also the root bound situation. So much less likely to get root bound seedlings with Lisianthus grown in soil blocks than in trays, and Lisianthus are angry if they get root bound. They really don't like it. So that's why we're doing soil blocks. If you haven't watched our soil blocking video and you want to learn how to soil block, pop over there and check it out. And let's talk about the sizes that we're going to use for the Lisianthus soil blocks. So you have a few options when it comes to soil blocking. One is the handheld soil blockers, and that's what you're looking at here. This is a handheld blocker. This is the smallest size. Here we have the medium size. This is 3/4 of an inch. This is 1.5 inch. And then this is a 2-inch block. So we actually have found, which is kind of surprising to me, we did a little experiment last year where I planted out some soil blocks that were grown in the medium size and some that were grown in the 3/4 inch size. And even though the ones that I put out at planting time were smaller out of these blocks, they bloomed at the same time, and actually these ones were healthier. I was really surprised. Anyway, I'm not sure why, but for space reasons, I start all of mine in a 3/4 inch soil block. We grow them all the way until transplant in these blocks, and they're fine. If you have a little bit more space though, the downside of these smaller blocks is that they dry out faster. So they are more of a pain in the butt to keep watered. All right, so if you have the chance and the opportunity and the wherewithal to start in the bigger blocks, the 1.5 inch size might be better. All right, let's go ahead and make these blocks, and we're gonna seed these Lisianthus. All right, so I'm gonna grab my toothpick to seed these guys into these blocks, and then we will just start filling up this tray. I'm gonna do 1 per cell, just because I know that the voyage tend to have a pretty high germination rate. And let's see if they put the germination rate on the packet. With the germination rate as high as 87 to 90%, we're just gonna do 1 per cell because these blocks are so small, we have the space anyway, so let's do it. All right, I just pour a few into my hand, and then I'm going to use my toothpick. I'm going to moisten one end with my tongue, and then I'm just going to pick up 1 seed with this toothpick. You can see how easily it picks up, and then we just deposit it right into the soil. Boop, and because the soil is moist, it holds onto it. That was a lot of time saying moist. We're just going to forget about that. I know how people feel about that word. So once we get all of these guys into their soil blocks, we are just going to pop them onto a heat mat. So the key when we are getting these guys germinated is to maintain even temperature and even moisture until they've germinated. And that's oftentimes where a lot of people get tripped up with Lisianthus, is either the temperatures that they have them when they're germinating in are just too up and down, too volatile, or the moisture levels are too volatile. So the humidity dome that we're going to put on top of these is actually going to be that piece of saran wrap. We're going to put these onto that heat mat. I expect usually germination of Lisianthus in soil blocks happens 7 to 10 days. So it's actually not as long as when we're growing in seed trays, but we'll see how long it takes. I've had some varieties take up to 2 weeks. It really is varietal dependent. Some of them germinate earlier than others. Okay, so now that we have the whole tray full, 320 Lisianthus, we're going to go ahead and sprinkle some vermiculite over the top. That's just going to help hold in the moisture, and it's also going to help prevent algae growth. So you can see on these blocks actually that the moisture is already starting to break down this pelleted seed. Now if you want, you could even kind of push it down with your finger a little bit, but really it's all about keeping it moist. That's going to help dissolve that pelleted coating. Always be sure to use a fine mist, not a spray or a stream, because that is going to blow these guys away. Now the soil blocks are already pretty wet, so you don't have to get this too wet. You just want to, again, moisten that vermiculite on top. And now we're going to apply our humidity dome. So we mentioned that keeping the moisture levels even is very important. And with this size tray, I can't buy a plastic humidity dome to go over the top. So I just use plastic saran wrap, and I do reuse this. So I'll reuse it throughout the season. You can use the same sheet over and over. I haven't found that to be a problem. Now I am going to lay this directly on top of the soil. I have never found it to be an issue that seedlings are sticking to the saran wrap as I remove it, but if you do find that that's a problem, you can put some toothpicks into the soil blocks to help elevate the saran wrap up off of them. Okay, so these guys are all ready to go. We're just gonna pop them into our heat mat. Now, remember, we wanna keep the temperatures nice and even until these guys are all germinated. So we're gonna leave them on the heat mat until almost all of them have germinated. And then at that point, we're going to remove them from that heat mat. We're going to bring them into a space that gets to around 65 to 70 degrees, but no warmer than that. You don't want them too hot, okay? No more than 70, 75 at the most, or else they're gonna start rosetting and then you'll never get blooms. And for us, I've found that I like to bring them down in temperature a little bit in the evening to mimic what they would be experiencing outside, which helps bulk up their roots and make them more resilient when we plant them out. So for us, I plant them in our minimally heated greenhouse. It gets around freezing to maybe 40 degrees in here at night. It's hard to replicate that if you don't have a greenhouse, but if you can put them in a somewhat cooler spot at night, that will be good for you when it comes to hardening off time. You're gonna have to do a little less work. Soil blocking results in healthier seedlings, healthier plants, and the other benefit of soil blocking is that it's cheaper. Seed starting is always gonna be cheaper than buying plants of Lisianthus, and the more Lisianthus, the better. All right, guys, make sure you subscribe and like below. Let me know if you're gonna give these a try this year. I'd love to hear it.